Excellent. All right. Now that we have the technical issues ironed out here, we're going to be talking about Tmux and terminal sharing and what that can mean for you and your administration/security needs. So what is terminal multiplexing? So I don't know about any of y'all, but before I learned about this, I used to have a dozen or more terminal windows open, and I had long-running processes in some. I was tailing files, had a couple of those. I had like maybe a web server up and running because I was pulling files for my security usages, and I just got really frustrated with how that all ended up working out. And so I went looking for a solution, and Tmux was it. So what Tmux allows us to do is basically to have a client server model to run multiple terminals. And I'll explain that in greater detail as we go forward. So let's just go ahead and start Tmux. We're going to provide the argument that we're going to do a new session, and we're going to name it BSidesOK. And we'll just run that. So we dropped in here. The only thing that changed is we now have this bar down at the bottom that gives us some information. BSidesOK is the name of the session, which is the entire enchilada. We have just one window, 0, and it has automatically applied the name bash, and the star indicates that we are currently on that window. The name of my box and the time date is over here on the right. All of these are configurable if you want to get down into that. So what do I mean when I say session? So I'm going to type the modifier Control-B and then D. I'll explain that in greater detail in just a moment. And then we're going to do ls. So I have 3 sessions running. One is named the number 2, one is BSidesOK, and the other one is named number 1. So we're going to attach to the A is shorthand for attach. We can also type it longhand, T for the target, and we're going to reconnect to BSidesOK. So this is right where we left it, and we can echo hello BSides. So if I drop out here and then I Tmux attach to 2, I don't see that. That's because these are completely different sessions and we see different views from inside each one of them. So I can then echo number 2, and we'll leave that, and we'll come back to that later. All right, so we're going to reattach to the first session to BSides. Okay, so we now have sessions. The next thing that we need to talk about is what's called the prefix. So by default, Tmux uses the Control-B key, and then you type whatever action you want to happen. So in this case, I typed the % to split my window in half. So now I have 2 panes inside this window. Now, if I wanted to create another window, I could do prefix Control-B, and then I could do C to create a new window. So as you can see down here in the bar, we now have 0 that is bash and 1 that is bash, and then the star indicating that this is the current window that I'm viewing. So if I run so let's do tail var log. What's something that's going to be busy? Debug should work fine. Okay, so we're going to leave that running. Okay, so we have that running in that window. And so if we jump back, so we can do whatever commands we have here. You're pounding away with nmap, scanning things. That's just that's not going to be a long running task. But if you have something that's going to be running for a while, we can detach from this and then attach to another session. So if we did Tmux A T1, so then we're back into a new session. We now only have the single window that is bash. So we are lacking all of that state that we left from the last one. So how do you kill a session? Now that we've learned to attach and detach to get rid of one. You can either close all of the windows inside of a session. So if you just exit, that means that the session 1 has gone away. There was no windows left inside of it, so Tmux went ahead and got rid of the entire session. The other way that you can get rid of it is if we do Tmux kill-sesh, T for target, and then do number 2. That now got rid of our number 2. So we should just have BSidesOK remaining. So let's go ahead and attach. Since we only have one Tmux session, I can just do Tmux A and it will automatically fill in because there's no other targets for me to be attaching to. Okay, so we've done session management. We've created, we've listed, we've detached, we've killed them. We have the option to, if we do prefix and then $, we can rename the session. So we can do BSides Oklahoma 2020. And as you can see, it just shortens it because it doesn't want to keep pushing my windows off, but this session is now named BSidesOK 2020. So if what you originally named a session, you end up changing it later, your needs or what you're just using it for changes, it's easy to go ahead and rename those. Now, by the same token, we can go ahead and rename windows and jump around between them. So let's go ahead and do that some. So we're going to go ahead and create a couple more windows just to make this easy to show off here. So we'll do echo 4. Then we'll do prefix, and then the numbers that are in front of these allows us to automatically jump back to them. So if I press 0, I'm going to immediately jump back to our original window. So let's go ahead and jump back to 4, and then we can do prefix in to go back to the last one, prefix control B, and P to go to the previous. So if I do that again, you can see that we've jumped to window 3. Let's see. To rename a window, you do prefix, comma, and then that allows you to rename this. So we will name this one fun. Let's go to prefix in to jump to the next one. So we're now in window 4. So we'll rename this one not fun. Okay, so now let's jump back to Windows 0 to go here. So earlier I did prefix %, to split it vertically, which I can keep doing that until we get to just crazy, entirely unuseful levels of division where it's hard to read that. But that's okay, because sometimes you may need to adjust how this is going. And we have several different options inside Tmux of how to organize these. So the easiest, if you just need to get information from this one on the right, you can press prefix, then hold the control key and press the arrow, and it's going to drag it out and squish the other ones if I just need to temporarily look at what's going on in this window. On the other hand, I can press prefix spacebar, and it's going to auto sort them for me. And if you continue to press that, it will intelligently try several different options in order to figure out what you really want. So let's say on this case, I was looking at a log message up here in the top window. So we're viewing something, but I only want to see a few lines of it. So if I press Control B and then hold the control, I can go ahead and move this up and give that less screen real estate, but still allow me to be able to use these other windows running whatever I'm running. So Metasploit or whatever else I'm attempting to do inside of this window. So let's say that you're really deep into this and suddenly Metasploit pops up that it found something interesting and you really want to look at this one screen in the middle. And so you can Control B and control and like make it bigger, but that's a really tedious option and you don't want to mess up the layout that you've set up previously. What we can do is we can do prefix Z and it will pop it out into a full screen. And this is just a temporary. If I go ahead and press prefix Z again, it drops it right back to where we at, and we can continue the testing that we had been working on. So getting rid of panes. So panes disappear when you go ahead and exit the process. It just auto cleans that up, and then it doesn't do any sort of intelligent sorting. To fix this, we'd have to do the other ways we learned of rearranging the windows in order to clean it up. So unfortunately, it's not quite that clever. So the other way of getting rid of a window is we can go ahead and do prefix ampersand, and that kills this entire window. So it will get rid of everything in here. All 5 of those panes will disappear. So if I go ahead and do that, you can see that 0 has disappeared down here, and we now just have 1 through 4. So to kill a pane by itself, let me see here, rearrange. I believe it's just Control V, Z. Yeah, Z to delete that. Okay, what else do we want to show here? Oh, this is important. So let's say you're working inside of a split like this, and what you want to do is take a pane and move it to a window. So I have a bunch of important information here, and I want to pull that out into its own window so I can then expand. Like I found a finding or something interesting, I want to dig into it more, and I want the ability to make that entire window its own individual unit. So if I go ahead and press prefix and then exclamation mark, you can see that it has gone ahead and backfilled the 0 and moved the important pane into its own window. And that way we can go ahead and divide this up as we like in order to dig further into that finding or whatever we're looking at. Let's see here real quick. Other things to show. Okay, so let's jump back a moment into sessions. So this all of these panes and windows are all running in this session. What makes detach so important? Why is this so powerful? And one of the main things people think of whenever they think of Tmux and the utility it brings to them. So if you were SSH'd into a box and you are running things, and for whatever reason, you shut your laptop, the power, you had a network drop, the SSH connection closed itself. All of your processes inside that SSH session terminate. You lose the data if they haven't finished and written to a file somewhere. All of that is gone. What Tmux allows us is, because it's a server client setup, the server is running wherever you invoke it. So if I SSH into somewhere first and then run Tmux, when I reconnect my SSH session and then I reattach to my Tmux, everything is exactly how I left it. And so that is a really powerful ability that has saved my bacon more than once for sure, just because you never know what's going to happen. Let's see. Do we have any questions, John?
I haven't not seen, sir.
Gotcha. Let's see. Okay, well, I think that's it for the basics of Tmux. I do have a couple other things I wanted to show you all. So I guess we can go ahead and jump right into that. Okay, so if we jump out of Tmux for a second here, I want to talk about a Tmux fort. It's called Teammate, and you can find it at teammate.io. This is a super useful tool which we will go ahead and show off here. Basically, what this does is it allows you to work with other people a lot easier, and it saves you from having to create a user and allowing them to SSH into your box. Sometimes that is more difficult to accomplish if you're behind NAT firewalls that you don't control. What Teammate does is it reaches out to this server. You can host your own, or you can use the one that Teammate, the open source project, provides. And basically what it does is it gives a DNS name that you can SSH to that then connects you back to the local session. So if I go ahead, oh, it's not finding my keys. Okay. A little bit of live troubleshooting here for y'all. Okay, so as you can see at the bottom, we get told SSH blah blah .teammate.io. If you all connect to that, you will connect to my box. I will be shutting this down temporarily, so don't try. But we can do teammate show sessions. I have that command wrong here. Show messages. So if for some reason that you did not capture it when it was down at the bottom, this gives you web SSH. It also allows you to have read-only sessions. So it makes it a little easier to share your Tmux session if you want to remote debug or your pair programming, or the sky's the limit on how you want to use that. If you don't want to install Teammate, you don't want to run your own server, you don't want to trust them, there is a kind of workaround to using Tmux, but it's a little bit more involved. So if I go Tmux LS, I still have a window. So if I do a full view, you can see that I have a client and server log. And at the moment, they're in my personal home directory, Austin. I'm the only one that can read and write to them. So if I allow somebody else to SSH into my box, they cannot attach to this Tmux session. But if I, either in my Tmux config or on startup, you can pass in all sorts of params on how to use it, and you can change the socket path. And so if I do Tmux s temp, then I have to give it a name. So I need to do new, and then target new. Is that just a lowercase size? Let's see here. Of course, I tested this all earlier, and now it's not working. Well, apparently I'm not going to figure that out live for you, but it is possible. There's plenty of tutorials out there that will allow you to run it. Yes, I am paying respects to the demo gods. I did not bleed enough apparently last night, and you can host your own Teammate server. I don't see a reason why you would have a problem hosting it in AWS. That being said, I've not tried. I have my own server out there, and that's what I've used in the past. So I don't imagine AWS would stop you, but if it does, don't blame me. Sorry, I can't be more helpful in regards to the specific of that one. All right, so I have one more thing I want to share with you guys, and I'm going to go ahead and change what screen I'm sharing. So let's see here. All right, so There's also one more project that I didn't really have time in my talk to get around to, but it's called Tmuxinator. So after you've used Tmux for a while, your general use cases are going to start showing of how you use Tmux. And it can be kind of annoying to have to, get everything set up, and you split it the same ways every time, and you run the same commands, and I mean, you got it pixel perfect, or exactly how you want it to look. And you're like, I don't really want to do that every time. Tmuxinator is the answer to your woes. So what Tmuxinator lets you do is you can script out entirely how you want your Tmux sessions to begin, and it lets you do everything. Here I am using Tmux bindings in Firefox. That doesn't work. So it will let you name the session however you want. So let's say you're doing Ruby development every time. So you want the entire thing to be named Ruby. You have your windows. You have one for like logs. You have one for Rails. However you have it set up, it allows you to script that. And so you just invoke a single Tmuxinator command. You pass in the config that you want, and then it will go ahead and load that all up for you the same every time, on time, all the time. So I know that I'm pushing up on the edge of my speaking slot here, and I wanted to give one last shout out if anybody had any questions, anything in particular I did not address, anything of the sort. John's looking for me here. Doesn't look like it. All right, guys, I will be in the Slack if you do think of anything else later, or you just want to jibber jabber about command line tools. I'm happy to talk about my obsession. Thank you for spending the time today listening to me, and hope to see you guys around the rest of B-Sides.